All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Blast off. Hey everyone.
Good morning. It is Sunday night for us. It'll be Monday morning for you guys.
Yep.
And I just want to thank you guys for watching our devotionals. Or if you're on Spotify or on some kind of podcast, you're listening to us. And just to let you know that if you are listening to us and you want to view it, all you got to do is go to our YouTube channel, named after myself, David Rocha. When I started the YouTube channel, I didn't know I was supposed to name it anything. I just put my name there and it just stuck, and that was 9 years ago.
And it was really nice to see a lot of you guys on there for the Sunday morning service as well. You know, a lot of the times when David's up there, I'm able to see who's on and everything and say hello sometimes. But it was really nice to see everybody on there.
Yeah, just make sure you guys take the time to watch that today's sermon. It is called The Greatest Story Ever Told.
Yeah, it was real good.
And I especially encourage anyone that is new in the Lord, or you want to change, you want something different in your life. Please watch that. That sermon is written for you, with you in mind, you know. And I got a lot of response back after of the illustration I used about the twin brothers.
Yeah.
And
that was powerful.
so if you have no idea what we're talking about, please take the time and watch that and hear the story about the twin brothers. That's all I'm going to say about that. But,
Amen.
but we wanted to get right into it, and I wanted to read this verse that Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus. And so it's in the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 8. And Ephesus was actually a huge, it was the center of worship for the goddess Artemis or Diana in Ephesus. And actually Paul stayed there for 2 years to raise up leaders. But he's writing this, he was away. I believe he was actually incarcerated when he wrote this to the church in Ephesus. So it was after he had already established that church and raised up leaders. And I believe that he was incarcerated. But anyways, he says this one verse that I wanted to kind of concentrate on and talk about. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8, it says this. It says, "For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of the light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth."
Okay. So David reads out of the New King James Version Bible. And what I do is I just translate it over to the Message because it's a little bit more easier to understand for some people. So I like to be able to read it off of the Message. It says, "You groped your way through that murk once, but no longer. You're out in the open now. The bright light of Christ makes your way plain. So no more stumbling around. Get on with it. The good, the right, the true."
You know, the reason I brought up this verse was Sharon was talking about a study that she did with a woman in the Old Testament named Rahab.
Yes.
And
which is in Joshua. If you read in Joshua 2, you'll be able to read a little bit more about Rahab 2 and 3.
yeah, so just to kind of set the stage and set the scenario of what was going on, I want to summarize it. That way it doesn't take long to kind of explain, or nobody's lost. But basically the people of Israel had been freed from slavery out of Egypt. They had been slaves for 430 years. They went traveling to the promised land, which is modern day Israel. And they came in to the land that God promised them, but there was people already there. And there was cities and forts that were already there. And they came across this city, and this woman, did they come in through the gate, or how did they get in? Do you recall?
Well, she was on the outer wall. So
Yeah, because they used to live in the outer wall.
yeah, so I believe it doesn't specify exactly how, but the fact is that they did make their way in there, and she was able to hide them on the roof under some haystacks.
So everybody knew that the Hebrew people were coming. They had already been hearing about it, and the city people were getting nervous because of this huge migration of Hebrew people, and they had already came across Jericho already. So there was already things happening as far as bringing fear to the people about these Hebrews. They had heard about the Red Sea parting. So these two spies of the Hebrews went into that city and they hid in the house of Rahab. Interesting thing was, she was a prostitute. She was somebody that was probably not respected. She was probably someone that wasn't somebody that was an outstanding citizen.
And the most likely, the fact for them to find somebody there's always people coming in and out of her home.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of traffic in her house. So she decided to hide them. And she understood and knew that the Hebrew people were going to come and conquer their city.
Yeah.
And she basically said something to them, and not exactly, but I'm kind of, summarizing the story, but she said, since I'm helping you out, can you please remember me when your people come back to take the city?
Well, the thing is that she also did believe, because she knew that that God had given them the land, and that everyone in the country feels hopeless. We heard how God dried up the waters of the Red Sea before you left Egypt, and what he did to the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan. So she specifically tells them, I know you're God, and the thing is that she was already, she says here, you and God, your God, God of the heavens above and God of the earth below. So she already knew.
Yeah.
Because she had seen these miracles, because she had seen these things. So it was something already, a seed had already been planted in her heart from seeing. So somehow or another, and it made me think about it too, because she gives them direct instructions to go. It gives them instructions to go, to when they leave, exactly where to go, how long to stay, and for how long to stay there.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that I brought to the women's attention today. And I said, that's one thing we didn't think about. So why would she know? It's because she's had to be in hiding before herself. Only somebody that would know exactly the time, how many days, how much,
true.
everything that you have to go and you have to stay there, because she gave the direct instructions. And it's exactly what I thought, and I thought to myself, only a person that would ever know them being in that situation would know what to do. So it made me think that her life was pretty interesting for her to sometimes have to get away to that specific spot too.
Never thought of that.
Yeah.
So, to get to the part of what we're saying on this verse, though, is basically the spies were ready to go back to report to the Hebrews, to report to Joshua. And she said, remember me.
Yeah.
So they told her, you know what? Hang something out of your window and the Lord will protect you. You know what's crazy is they said that prophetically speaking.
Yeah.
It's not like God instructed them to do that. They just basically said it and God honored it.
Yeah.
But that's a different point though, right? So then they left, and then, the Hebrew people came and took the city.
Yeah. But they made sure to let the men know, do not touch, do not break the oath.
Yeah.
Do not break that oath. And you know how important that is that, I think that kind of teaches us accountability too, because by not breaking that oath, we're not calling God a liar, because God doesn't break his promises. And imagine if that oath would have been broken. Imagine what would have happened.
Yeah.
So I think that's a something that's real important. But let's get back to what we're talking about.
So all of this is just context of what we really want to say in this video. This woman Rahab was a prostitute living in the city walls of the city here, And let's say that she had helped these guys and then they went on. And let's say she had continued living in the lifestyle she was in, not realizing there was a destiny inside of her. I'm pretty sure because of her lifestyle that she probably thought and believed in herself that this is all I'm good for. This is all I'll ever do. This is all I'll ever amount to. I will never be nothing more than this prostitute in this city. And she would have never realized the destiny within her. Now, I'm going to give you a little clue. Rahab, out of Rahab and the bloodline of Rahab came Jesus Christ.
Amen. That was, Ruth was the grandmother.
Yeah. So the very fact that God chose this woman who wasn't even a Hebrew, that in her lineage would come the Messiah. So in other words, we can say that she had a destiny inside of her, yet she was living a lifestyle that was so below than who she really was. And how does this become relevant to us and relevant Bible talk? Is because I truly believe that many people that are watching this video now, you are living below the destiny that God has set before you. You have no idea what God has for you because you think the part where you're at now is all you'll ever be. And there's so many people that live in that you just live through this life completely broken, and you just think that this is it. This is it, and I don't care how old you are. Abraham was over 80 years old.
Yeah.
And out of him came a great nation.
Amen.
So I think that's the whole thing right now, is there is no more hope. People have no hope anymore. People have no encouragement anymore. And it's like, that is why people don't try to better themselves, because they believe it's called the poverty mentality. That's what it's called, and you just settle. Go ahead.
Sorry. It really made me think about your dad today. Your dad and the purpose and the calling that he has, and not even realize it. And today, when you called him up for his birthday, you telling him what you told him. You told him that all this time you have said that you've never had a pastor, and you've never had a pastor, when in all true reality, he has been your pastor. He has been the example. He's exemplified, and
without a sermon.
Exactly, without a sermon. And and that's powerful. That was powerful for me to hear, because a lot of the times people lead by example without realizing the impact they have on people. They have such an amazing impact without even knowing, without even trying, and they're just living by example. And that's why we say, just live by example. You don't have to, know this by heart, or you don't have to recite everything. You don't have to say sometimes not even one word.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we said, like the other day, there's no need to ever fight back. There's no need to ever do any of that. You know what? You just keep living by example, and you'll see the lives that you're going to impact.
Yeah, stop settling for what this world says.
Yeah.
Stop settling for what you yourself say about yourself.
Or your family.
And I was talking to somebody the other day when we're coming back from Los Angeles, and we met someone and internet friends, and we met him in person, and it was a little town. And I said, what do people do here? And he goes, they join gangs, fight each other, do drugs, and drink.
Wow.
And I said, why? He goes, because there's nothing else here to do. There's nothing. There's no future. And that was very sad, because how many future doctors or scientists or lawyers or teachers are in that place, but because the place sucks the very life and every single dream out of them, that they just do whatever it is they think everybody else does.
Yeah.
And it's like, we got to rise above that.
Amen.
We just have to rise above it, get past it, and not living that, because it's a sad life. It's a sad life, you know. And I always want more, and I always want more for my children, and we should want more for our families than ourselves. You know, I never understood back then when I used to gangbang. I had homeboys that would dress their kids in gang colors, and I couldn't comprehend it. Little kids, little babies, barely learn how to walk, and they'd buy them red Jordans and a red T-shirt. I'm like, that I never understood that, because I'm just like, okay, I understand this lifestyle we're in. Why would you want that for your children? Why would you not want something more? Like, you seriously can't see past that you even are cursing your children with this. And maybe you're not involved in gangs, you're not involved or whatever, but if you're sitting there drinking every single weekend, what do you think your kids are going to do when they grow up? If you're sitting there smoking weed, and that's all they know, what do you think your kids are going to do when they grow up? So it's like, we have to reach in ourselves and realize there's a bigger destiny in us. Rahab was a prostitute, but yet in her bloodline, Jesus was going to come later on in future generations.
Well, what I love too is that though Rahab was a prostitute, she was already thinking up a way to save her family.
Yeah.
You know, she was putting her family before herself, you can say, because her first thought, she says, I'll get you guys
the help
that you need, but this is what I need. She was being strategic.
Yeah.
It was very strategic. And, you know, and it was to better her family. It was because she wanted more. She wanted better. She had a desire. She had a vision. She had something. That seed had been planted. And here's another thing. It's a whole difference if a person truly doesn't know. But it's different when we make the choice to stay.
Yeah.
To stay in that.
You know, and it's like, you can't, it's so easy to have somebody kill your dreams. I've always said it before, I'll repeat myself again. Be careful who you share your dreams with. Yeah. Because most people will take your dreams, and because their dreams haven't been accomplished, they will stomp all over yours.
Yeah, they'll become envious of stuff like that.
You know, and that's just the way it is. You know, I remember years ago, I had shared with somebody that, and I was 378 pounds, and I'd shared with somebody, man, I want to ride a bike. And the person laughed at me, you know, and it's like, and you know what, for maybe a year, I never thought of it again, because I'm like, oh man, I got laughed at. That's a dumb idea. Yeah. But a year down the line, you know, I was at Walmart one day and I passed by those bikes and I saw a $99 bike. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, you know. And I got that bike and I went 1 mile. And I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack. Like, this is crazy. And I put the bike away for 3 months, you know? And then 3 months later, I said, forget this. I'm not going to let this thing defeat me. And I went and did a mile. And I almost had a heart attack again. And I kept doing that mile, because everything you do takes a mile at a time, a step at a time, a thought at a time, you know?
If you don't know which direction to go, just stand up. Like, seriously, do me a favor. If you really have a hard time wondering which way should I go, just stand up. Your feet are pointing the exact way that you're supposed to be going. It's no mistake why God created with our feet going forward. It's so that we can go forward. So to remind yourself, and you kind of feel stuck sometimes, stand up, stand on your feet, and go forward. That's all you got to do.
And you approach life like that, approach your health like
Everything.
that, approach your family like that, approach your dream career, your education, the projects you want to do, you know, and you just push through it and you push forward. And sometimes, you know, when I do paintings, I've already learned now that there's a certain part when I do a painting where it reaches the ugly stage.
It's ugly.
And you know what's crazy is most people that are producers, music creators, whatever it is, what they don't understand is that song, that book, that painting, that project, it's going to reach an ugly stage. Do you know how many ugly stages never get finished because people don't think past that? Yeah. And I have done so many paintings now that I almost get excited when I reach the ugly stage because I know I'm about to pass that and it just starts looking amazing. But what happens is most people stop there.
Yeah.
And you've reached an ugly stage in your life and you just stop there and you just settle.
And most people also stop because people stop you, because you allow them to. You know, when they see progress at something, they make you feel that progress is nothing. When in true reality, they truly don't even know where you truly came from, or how bad things were. You know, let's bring that, for instance, you know, our weight loss. We're not where we used to be. We were both over 100 pounds, still over than what we are now. But because people see progress, it's like, oh, it's no big deal. But it's a big deal to us. Because you know what it's done? It's added years to our lives for our families. It's added more for our lives so that we can see our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all of that. And you know what? Here's the thing, that people will try to break you in your time of progress, but it's still not done for us. So that's when we got to learn to thicken up our skin, like David says, and you know what? Keep moving forward. Keep going forward, because we ain't done yet. You know, we're not.
You know, and it's like, that's why we use this verse, for you were once darkness, but now you're light. So it's like, listen, guys, that ain't you anymore. That's the old you. Let that old person die. Quit trying to revive them. Quit trying to do CPR on your old person. Let that old person die. Move forward. You are not in darkness. You are in light. You're going to push through. You're past the ugly stage. And God has great things for you, in store for you. There's destiny in you. And you are destined for something greater than just to be stagnant water. Like stagnant water that just goes bad. You know what? When water doesn't go stagnant? When it's flowing.
Yeah.
And just keep moving,
Yeah.
you know, and don't let yourself become idle. You know, so that's pretty much it that I wanted to say. Right?
Yeah, that's good. You know, it's funny, it's crazy. I've kind of laid off on looking at comments and everything, and it really made me laugh, actually. We had fun laughing at that, because somebody was like, man, you know, she had brain surgery, leave her alone, she's mentally ill. And I'm like, darn, you know, I had brain surgery, and I was like, well, praise God. If I'm mentally ill, I'm a pretty smart woman, you know? So, you know, people are always going to discourage or try to somehow discourage, even in the most sensitive things. And that's when we just got to remind ourselves, well, you know what? Everything that I live for, everything that I do is to please Christ. It's not to please people. It's not to please man, you know? So I hope that you guys stay with that, recognize who you are, your purpose, and just know that when God plants a seed in someone, just, you know, be positive and, you know, speak life to it so that it can come into fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think that's it, guys. You guys have a good night. Good morning.
Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you want to find out more about House of Rest Church, go to our YouTube our website, www.houseofrestchurch.com. If you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you follow. And that's it. God bless.
That's it. Bye. We love you guys.
Bye.